So welcome back to another video here in Pennsylvania. Something a little bit different today, because I kind of hinted at making this video earlier, I think a week ago or so, when I was out in Western PA, out at Ryerson Station State Park. I ended up making a video that evening. Kind of had a lot on my mind, and I was kind of wore out too. I did a lot of traveling that day, but yeah, I talked about making a video dealing. Years ago, I made a video talking about dealing with toxic and abusive people, and I think I mentioned in that other camping video, I was a little reluctant to put that video out, just sharing some of my own personal experiences and stuff, and it was quite a bit different than what I normally put out, but I got a huge response from that video, and people have asked me to do more like that in the past, and I kind of hesitate, I guess, because it is kind of personal note, because I'll be sharing some I'm not going to go into super detail about some personal things, but this is a video dealing with how to deal with trauma and loss in your life. Like I said, I'll be sharing some of my own experiences, and I'm still growing and healing from that experience. But we go through these things sometimes so we can help each other. And sometimes it's good to talk about it. I know when I was talking about last week or so, when I was out Western PA, I had a lot on my mind that day. I was thinking about things regarding that video and some things that I realized that I needed to do myself. So anyway, I got the fire set up here. We'll do a little campfire chat tonight. Here's the fire going. Doing some hammock camping tonight. First time I'm going to try that, but yeah. Alright, so I thought I'd start a little bit by just telling you about my story a little bit. I'm not going to go into huge detail. And I'll be talking about other things in my life too. I might share a little bit about my own faith. Like I said, I'm not going to preach at you too much, but I might talk about that a little bit. Because it is for me, it was part of the healing process. I know a lot of times, all my videos, I mentioned the farm. I remember things, the farm, the goats, different plants, and different things always remind me of the farm. It's where I grew up. I lived there most of my life, except for my college years. But at one point, I'm not going to go into super detail about this, but just to give you some ideas about it. But at one point, me and my dad made a deal concerning the farm and the ownership and stuff. And I had a lot of hopes and dreams built on that, quite a few, and I invested quite a bit of myself in that enterprise. But then, without going into a whole lot of detail, things changed. My dad ended up having an affair with a woman at work, and to say the least, well, there's a lot of smoke coming up. To say the least, that kind of messed plans up quite a bit. But as with all stories, there's a whole lot more to it than what I'm going to share in this video. But to say the least, I ended up coming into ownership of the property much sooner than I was expecting, and I wasn't quite ready for that, for different reasons, financially and in other ways, but it kind of came upon me all of a sudden. And it got to the point where there were other people that didn't kind of want me living there, I guess you could say, different family problems and stuff like that. Like I said, I'm not going to go into great detail. But my mom lived there too, because my parents did, but then, because my dad left, he ended up moving in with the woman he was on an affair with. But it was tough. It was a tough couple of years trying to make things happen, trying to make it go with things there, and it just didn't happen in the end. And in the end, just a lot of loss. The way things went down in the end is what hurt too. It's just things got very bitter and angry with people and things like that. And like I said, I invested quite a bit of myself in the place, a lot of memories, a lot of hopes and dreams. It wasn't just the property itself, it was just, you feel betrayed, you feel abandoned. There were people saying things about me, different places. I don't know where all the rumors came from. People were saying I didn't have a job and I was living off welfare, or I was stealing money from my mom, things like that were being said, and it was just not a cool experience for me at all. Yeah, so there was just a lot of hurt, a lot of pain. Just even watching the place be sold. I mean, I felt like the place, when I signed property back over to my dad, they just kind of sold it for peanuts. It was kind of sad. There was a lot of potential in the place. I mean, I'm not a car guy. Picture you have a project car that you're working on, like an old Corvette or a Mustang or something that you got from a family member or something, and you're fixing it up, trying to restore it. And say the deal goes bad and they end up getting the vehicle back from you, for some reason. But instead of restoring it themselves, they just take it to the scrap yard and have it crushed or shredded into scrap metal, You know, here was this car that you loved and were trying to rebuild, and it just got scrapped when they took it back from you. That's kind of how I felt. I kind of felt that way too about the farm. But anyway, there's just a lot. Anyway, there was just a lot going on in my heart and my mind during that time. So I've titled this video, Going Through the Fire. And that's kind of what, if you've ever gone through a really bad time in your life, you use that phrase, you know, you're going through hell, or you're going through the fire. And it's like you're just watching your life just burn away. You know, maybe you have things set up a certain way, or like I said, you have those hopes and dreams and different things, and you just, maybe it's a relationship, you know, family, or marriage, or something, and you're just watching it. It's like everything is just burning away. You're going through the fire. You're going down into that valley, the valley of fire. That's just what it feels like. And when you're going through that fire like that, it can feel like just everybody's abandoning you. You know, you feel like, I don't know, you feel betrayed by so many people. There's so many emotions going through your mind, your heart. Sometimes you don't even know where to go. You're down in that valley, down that fire, and you don't even really know where to go or what to do. But it's down in that valley where the journey begins, in a lot of ways. You know, the past 10 years for me have been quite a journey. And I do believe that good can come out of bad situations. In my own beliefs, I believe that God has a purpose for the bad times that we go through. And for me, it was to set me on a different path than what I was on. You know, there was nothing wrong with having that little farm and doing things like that. It was not a bad thing, but I believe there was something better for me to do. Namely, this whole YouTube thing has been quite a journey for me. It's like about a year or two after I started on this journey. Most of you know I teach, but one of the moms one of the students, she said something to me once. Like I said, a year or two after I started filming, she said it's like you finally discovered who you really are. And that just kind of hit me. I was like, yeah, in a way it is. Because to be honest, you know, when that was all going on, when I, you know, lost the farm and ended up moving, you know, I went to the woods for healing. You know, a place to pray, to think. I rediscovered my love of nature and the outdoors. But even though I believe that good things can come as a result of the hard times are still very hard. Like I said, I can remember, not too far from where I live is the town of Fredericksburg, and they have a library there. I was sitting upstairs using the internet there at the library, because I didn't have internet at home at the time. I was trying to save some money, but that was the lowest point of my life, sitting up there. I think it was February. It was cold and windy outside. It started snowing, and I was looking for a place to live. I was online looking for places to rent and stuff, and it was just, I just remember looking out the window and seeing the snowflakes falling, which would usually be a beautiful thing, but it was just, I feel like every time I pass that library now, I just have this feeling inside me. That was probably the lowest point in my life, just sitting up there. I mean, it's one of those things, you kind of had to be there, you kind of had to go through it, but just is, like I said, I just felt like you're just losing everything. You're just watching your life burn away. Just didn't really feel like anybody was there beside me, although there were. I'll mention that in a moment, but you know, sometimes when you go through times like this, you feel more alone than what you really are. Like I said, my faith comes into this a little bit. I'm going to mention the Bible a couple of times. I know people have different ideas about that and feelings about this. Don't get, like I'm not going to preach at you super much, but there's a passage in there that talks about sometimes in life how things like the hay, the wood, and the stubble all burn away, but in the process it reveals, you know, the gold and the silver. I'm kind of paraphrasing it a little bit there. I feel like when you go through hard times like that, like I said, you're just watching everything burn away, your hopes and dreams. That sometimes it reveals that hidden gold and silver. My friendship, a lot of you know John, he's the hometown historian. He's been a good friend over the years. He couldn't stop what was happening, but I remember he came over a number of times. Sometimes we would just go for a walk up the road through the woods. Sometimes we didn't really say much. Sometimes he would just listen to me talk. But he was there. He was there for, even though he couldn't save the situation, but he was just a friend. I remember one time I was away for a week and he stopped in, visited my mom, gave her a hug, and my mom still remembers that. I don't know if John remembers all that, but like I said, just sometimes it just reveals the gold and the silver in your life that maybe has been hidden because of other things, because of that wood and that stubble is covering it up. Not that it was wrong to have the farm and there's hopes and dreams, but sometimes I feel like you get so caught up in life that you forget about the other gold and silver that's out there, that's hidden. One of the other precious things I rediscovered was, like I said, was my love for the outdoors. I was so busy on the farm and doing things I didn't spend. I mean, I was outdoors a lot, but not outdoors like this, exploring. And it's like I rediscovered, like that one mom says, like I discovered, or in some ways, I rediscovered who I really am. But your journey and your experience might be different than mine. You know, I shared my story a little bit. Yours might be something different. Like I said, it might be a relationship that went sour, maybe a business, or who knows what, other relationships. So everybody's journey is different. You know, as you watch those things burn away. But the gold and silver that you discover will be different for everybody too. But like I said too, I think good things can come out of bad situations. Sometimes it doesn't feel like it at first. Like sometimes it feels like your whole life is just falling apart, burning away. But you know, give it time and you might find the good out of it. You know, it's not necessarily always going to be easy to discover the good out of a situation. You know, how do you discover the good out of, you know, losing a child, you know, to an illness or an accident or something? What good can come out of that, you might say? But I've watched videos where, you know, someone's child died and their heart was donated to someone else who needed a heart. So someone else is alive because their child died, and they actually, you know, met that person, and it was kind of emotional because their child's heart was still alive, beating in someone else, but that person was alive because their child died. And those people, even though it's heartbreaking stuff, they could still find the joy in that. Someone else, their loss was someone else's gain. You know, sometimes we can become very selfish in our own loss, you know, and fail to realize the good that can bring to others too, if that makes any sense. So it can be hard to just find the good in trauma and loss, but it's there. And you know, when you're going through that fire, when you're going through that valley of fire, you're going through hell, I think it's important to keep on moving. There's a country song that some of my friends like to sing. It's, you know, when you're going through hell, keep on moving. I'm not going to sing it for you, but it's kind of true. Sometimes in that loss and pain, we just end up sitting down there in the flames and not going anywhere. But you got to move. You got to find a path and start going, because that's the only way you're going to get out of that valley, is to keep going, keep on going in life. Another story I'd like to share with you. Most of you are familiar with the story of Joseph in the Bible. Even if you went to Sunday school when you were little and they had those little, what do you call it, flannel graphs, you're probably familiar with it. But once again, regardless of your feelings about it, it is a good story. Remember, his brothers sold him into slavery into Egypt. Actually, they were going to kill him first. They were jealous I'm not going to get the whole story, but they were jealous for different reasons. I think, but the oldest brother said, let's sell him into slavery in Egypt. And he went through a pretty horrible time there. And while he was going through that time, he was going through the fire, to say the least. You know, he had lost everything, his family. He was out a slave. He ended up in jail due to no fault of his own. And it was not a good time. But in the end, through various circumstances, I'm not going to go into great detail of the story, but he ended up becoming second in command of all of Egypt. So something good came out of it. And I'll talk more about that story later, because there's even more good that came out of it, because he ended up meeting his brothers again. And the reality is, at some point, you will get out of that valley, as long as you keep going. You know, different things might help. For me, it's my faith that helps. Things like that. But one thing you need to consider is that as you're walking through that valley, you know, that fire burning around you, and you're watching, like I said, your life burn away, different things, you know, you yourself get burned. You know, you yourself get damaged, to say the least. You know, there's going to be scars in your life from that experience. And those scars can be different things. They can be emotional scars or just different ways you handle things. You know, some people struggle with anger and bitterness. Even when they get out of that valley, they struggle with those things. For me, I kind of overreact to things sometimes. Although I seem like a very calm person, I kind of try to hide my emotions and feelings sometimes, but inside I'm overreacting. If that makes any sense. Recently, I kind of messed up with that recently with some friends, but they're gracious people, and I think we're gonna work through that situation. But yeah, sometimes because of the loss. Sometimes I don't know, you're kind of hurt inside, you're scarred inside, and you struggle with things like that. So it's something I gotta be careful about. For other people, like I said, it might be anger. I've known people that just like burst out in anger all of a sudden. They're just carrying like anger, bitterness, depression. Some people turn to alcohol and other things. We have those scars. So the healing process doesn't end. Even when you get out of that valley and you're on a new path, you still have those scars. You still have those issues that you have to deal with. You still have continued healing and things you need to work on in your life. And one of those things that's part of the healing process is something called forgiveness, which is something we don't always find easy to do, to be honest. Trying to forgive the people that hurt you. We want to stay angry at them, or things like that, but it doesn't. Staying angry and bitter is not going to heal. You're not going to heal from that. It's just going to continue to be like a festering wound inside you. You kind of got to forgive and move on. I think in my last camping video when I was out there at Ryerson Station State Park, I mentioned I had a lot on my mind. I mentioned in that video that I wrote a letter to someone. That person was my dad. Because as I was thinking about, making this video, what I was going to say, the idea of forgiveness came to mind, and I felt that conviction inside, because I had never forgiven my dad for some of the things he did. Forgiveness doesn't mean that what people did was right, but you're forgiving them, you're moving on. And I had never done that. So I wrote him a letter. Not really sure, I haven't heard from him, don't really think I will. And I had already talked to other people in my family too, trying to make things right. Sometimes forgiveness can result in beautiful things happening, even with people that have wronged you. They might realize they wronged you, and you might have a wonderful reconnection with people. But forgiveness doesn't always mean that'll happen. Sometimes you can forgive somebody and they won't accept it, or they just, But I think it's not just about the other person, it's about you too. It's about you just kind of like burying the hatchet in a way and trying to, like I said before, sometimes we want to hold on to that anger and that bitterness, but it just doesn't, it's not good. It's just like, it just becomes, that those wounds don't heal then. They just continue to fester, to bleed, and things like that. You have to be able to just forgive people and move on. Speaking of forgiveness, back to that story of Joseph, he did end up meeting his brothers again. There was a famine in the land, and Egypt had stored up a lot of grain and stuff for the famine. And his brothers came to Egypt looking for food. And Joseph recognized his brothers. Remember, he was like his second in command. He was in charge of the distribution of the grain and stuff. He had an opportunity there. He could have destroyed his brothers. He could have just refused them food, sent them home starving. They and their families would have starved. He could have killed them. He could have said, hey, you wanted to kill me. He could have sold them into slavery too. It's like, you did this to me, now's my chance. Here I am. I'm in position of power now. He could have done whatever he wanted to do to them. But you know what he did? He forgave them. As I'm sitting here, some other things come to mind too. Like I said, your journey is your own. And sometimes as you're going through that time of trial, that time through the fire, there's going to be people that don't understand what you're going through. They're going to think that you're making a big deal of nothing, or they just might think your loss is petty or things like that. Don't let people get you down. If there's people that are just putting you down when you're going through a tough time, maybe you need to find new people to be friends with. Like I said, sometimes when you're going through a time like that, you can discover the real friends in your life too. The people that will come along and just maybe can't help you in physical ways, but they can just be an emotional support to you. It's like just giving you a glass of cold water as you're going through that fire. Those are the people that you need to hold on to. And just a thought for those on the outside. If you have a friend who's going through a really hard time, don't criticize them. Try to be a help to them. Be a glass of cold water to them. Now there are, like I said, we can become, if you're going through that fire, sometimes you can become toxic. You can, like I said, you need to keep moving. Some people don't. It can be problematic if you are just in that fire and you just plop yourself there and don't even try to move on in life. You just become a bitter, angry, nasty, depressed, alcoholic or something like that. You gotta move on. If that means getting help from people or some organization, then that's what you gotta do. Like I said, you gotta get up and start walking at some point to get out of that valley. So, and like I said then too, keep your eyes open for the good. Or like for me, it's my experience set me on a completely different path in life. This whole journey doing YouTube has been wild. I mean, I don't have millions of subscribers. I don't even have 100,000 subscribers, but I never thought, I don't know. It's just, my life has changed so much, different ways. I have a lot more confidence in who I am and what I do. Made new friends. Looking back, would I lose it all over again? And the answer is yes, I would, to be honest. To be where I am today. And the journey isn't over. I still don't know where all this path is going to take me. Like I said, I believe from my own experience in my own faith, I believe that God wanted me on this path rather than the path that I was on. Not that the path that I was on was wrong. Not that it was wrong to be doing what I was having to farm and other things I was pursuing back then, but like I said, there was something better for me. And reality is, if I hadn't gone through that loss, I never would have discovered or changed paths. Does that make sense? Sometimes it takes a loss or a hit like that to us to get to the proper path that we should be on in life. Because otherwise, if life just kept going on as I wouldn't have chosen this path or found this path. I had to get a good bump in life. I had to get knocked down into that valley, go through the fire to discover the path that I'm on today. But one of the most dangerous things that can happen to you when you go through an experience like this, like I kind of mentioned before, is to become just a angry, toxic, abusive person yourself who fails to see the good in life, or fails to find that gold and that silver that I talked about earlier. We talk about that silver lining in the clouds sometimes. I've seen people who just, they end up in that valley, they're going through the fire, but they never get out. Or even if they do get out, they just become, they're just nasty people, always angry, never healing. Some of them, like I said, struggle with different addictions to try and get that healing, but those addictions don't work. But in the end, there is hope. Even when it doesn't seem like there's hope, there is. Like I said, there's times early on, when I first ended up in that valley of fire, I don't know, I felt totally lost. I didn't know. I don't know. Like when it feels like your whole life has just been stripped away and everything's lost, I don't know, sometimes it's difficult even to start building over again. But once I started doing this YouTube thing, it just, like that new path, it gave me a whole new purpose in life, to be honest, doing stuff like this. And don't be afraid to talk to people either. I'm kind of a quiet person. I try to hold my feelings in too much sometimes. I talked about that earlier. I did that before this whole experience, but this whole experience just kind of made it worse. Because there's people I wanted to talk to, but some of those people were the same people that were kind of making fun of me or criticizing me for the situation I was in, so I didn't feel like I could talk to them. But there were people that I could talk to, like my friend John, and there were some other people that I listened to, some other teachers I talked to, some other friends that really helped me out. Just listening and giving me advice and helping me, literally like helping to guide you and pull you out of that valley, that that fiery chasm of pain and suffering, or whatever you want to call it. So there is hope, and like I said, for me, a lot of it dealt with my own faith. A lot of I do go to church. I'm a Christian. My faith has helped me a lot in this. I know not everybody believes in that stuff, but if you're curious more about that, you can message me below. Message me. There's some information down below. Facebook, email that you can. If you're someone who wants to talk more about that, you're welcome to ask me some questions about that if you want to. But if you have your own story to share, there's a comment section down below. You can tell your story. You might want to be a little bit concise about it, but if you have a similar experience, you want to talk about some loss that you went through or something that helped you, if you want to talk about the good that came from your experience to try and help others, if you're someone who is struggling and you're looking for help, you can comment down below too. Other people can respond to you. Like I said, you can also message me privately too if you need to, or you can just comment below. Just tell people what you're going through. Sometimes it helps just to talk or to comment to let other people know what's going on in your life. So feel free to do so in the comment section below, or message me too if you want to. So I feel like there's more I could say or should say. I'm probably forgetting some things I wanted to say. But yeah, in the end, everybody's journey is different. Everybody's experience, going through the fire is going to be different. Like I said, there is hope. It's not going to feel like it at times. It's like I said, I keep saying it, but you just feel like everything is going wrong. You're losing everything. But like I said, what I believe that good can come out of those bad situations. It won't seem like it maybe at first for a while. And also too, like everybody, your journey might be longer than others. Mine started 10 years ago. I feel like I'm out of the fire, but like I said, I still have more healing to do, more work that I can do in my life. And I'm excited too about where this new path is taking me. What the future of doing stuff like this is going to be. It is kind of exciting to think. I feel pretty blessed too to be doing what I'm doing as well. I still teach too, part-time. I should mention that too. That I work with homeschool groups, and the homeschool community has been just amazingly supportive of me as well during that whole time I was going through that. A lot of them didn't know I was going through that, but they were just so supportive of me in other ways that just really helped when I felt that other people in my life had kind of abandoned me. That's another one of those gold and silver things that I discovered. Anyway, I feel like I'm rambling again. But anyway, like I said, feel free to comment below about things. Abusive, toxic comments won't be tolerated. I'll just delete those. But yeah, if you want to share, different things, like I said, comment below. All right, but folks, I'm out here camping. I got to get some supper ready or anything, but I think we'll have more of these chats in the future talking about different things. But anyway, folks, I got to go. Thanks for watching. Hopefully we'll see you on the next one.